is Outside the Box. Standing by to join me is Professor Judy Wu, Director of the Humanities Center at UC Irvine, Professor of Asian American Studies, Chancellor's Fellow at University of California, Irvine. And we are also joined by students Sidra Ali, Serena Long, and Chloe Lowe. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So I want to jump in and talk about how this initiative Voice came about, visualizing our identities and cultures for empowerment. Maybe, Professor, you could give us a sense of how this started.
Sure. I think it was the fall of 2020. And we were all grappling with the impact of COVID-19. A team of us at UC Irvine decided to use and explore this methodology called Photovoice. It's using photography and storytelling to represent a worldview and a set of experiences that tend to be overlooked. Okay. We decided to use Photovoice to try to capture the experiences of COVID-19 for Asian American and Pacific Islander communities.
Amazing. So now, this was a brand new initiative because of the impact of COVID-19, because of the pandemic. And now as students, and I'll just call on each of you, just tell me what it was like, because that was, at that time, there was definitely this sense of disconnect and social isolation. How was being part of this helpful to you? Maybe we'll start with Sidra.
I remember one thing for sure when COVID first hit. I was thinking about how, I was still in my freshman year, and I was thinking about how, after freshman year, I wanted to get more involved with things on campus, and then COVID hit, and I was thinking about how I wouldn't really get the chance to do that because school was now online, and a lot of places weren't accepting volunteers or interns or anything like that. And so for me, when I first saw the idea of Voice and I got the opportunity to join, I was really, really happy because I had nothing else to do besides my online classes. And I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to not only just be more involved, but also be part of something that I'm very passionate about. So being part of the Asian American community, I thought this is amazing. Like, we're getting a chance to share our stories. And I thought that was something really great that I got to be a part of.
It's really, when I think about it, it's really a very large mental health initiative to connect people. So it's wonderful. Thank you, Sidra. What about you, Serena?
Yeah, I actually got involved with Voice a little bit later than everyone else. I wasn't in like the initial cohort of people who were participating in Voice. I was actually part of a different project called the COVID Unity Project. It was more focused on oral history and interviewing. But there was like some crossover with Voice, and I just like hopped on a Zoom call like one day because they told me like, oh, like, if you're interested, maybe you should like just check it out and see. And I was like, okay, I'll come on. And then I was really surprised because I'd never really found like a space like that on campus. Especially coming from like a public health background, where like we mostly talk about like the like quantitative effects of COVID and this like very dreary stuff.
Yeah.
Like, like all of these like rates and numbers. I was really surprised that like there was something like Voice happening on campus. Unlike Sidra, I really wanted to make the most of my time like at UCI, even though I was like online. And so it was a really welcoming space. And I think like what just made me like stay past that one call was like being able to like converse with like everybody on the Voice team and learn more about people and what they were doing, and just like having a sense of community, like even though I just joined.
That's fantastic. What about you, Chloe?
Yeah, I really agree with what Sidra and Serena said, where like when I first saw the email for this opportunity, I was just like, oh, that's so cool, as someone who's Asian American and like is like a freshman doesn't really know what research is, but is like interested in it. It was a really amazing opportunity. And when I like think back on it now, it was really like lucky and fortunate to have like a community I could go to like a couple times a week of like a small group of students and staff, and we could all talk and learn about research, but also just like talk about our day, like our midterms and finals and coming up and stuff. And it really helped me feel like connected and like less alone and like a student at UCI while I was like miles away doing school online at home. And I remember specifically that like there was like a lot of like sub project opportunities. So something that me and Serena did was help out with creating like a little mini teaching curriculum and then working with middle school and high school students in the Orange County area. And it was, thinking back, it's just so cool to like be able to like talk to all these people in tons of different places, but like all from my own home. And it's all thanks to the different connections and like the creativity and the drive that the voice team had to like do different things and create community that way.
Well, bravo, especially to you, Professor, because when I think about all the research that's been out there about depression, social isolation, anxiety, et cetera, voice really provided something on such a deep level to students. How does that make you feel?
I'm so proud to be part of this project and so proud of our students. They shared some really deeply personal experiences. I remember one of the students talked about the fact that it gave him space to talk about mental health, something that he had not really considered. It gave students a chance to talk about intergenerational dynamics. And it was both a blessing to be home, but then it was also somewhat difficult to be home.
Yeah.
It was also a chance for students to talk about the anti-Asian racism that was very prevalent and still continues to be prevalent. So I think it allowed us to tackle really difficult topics in a way that was very personal and that's relatable.
Yes. I was going to mention the hostility with COVID was just, it was just on such a large scale. It was, to me, it was disgusting. But to give students a safe space to feel heard and to connect is a wonderful thing. Again, it does, to me, go back to mental health and that power of connection, which was so important, especially in 2020. Anything you'd like people to know more about voice, the kind of things that, your team was doing?
Maybe Sidra, Sabina, and Chloe can each talk about an image that they found really powerful, either that you took during that initial stage or maybe subsequently since then.
That'd be great. Who wants to start? Chloe, do you want to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So our image I remember I took during the first initial project was a photo of this like teen lounge space in my local library. So it's a place that I went to a lot in high school and volunteered a lot. There's a lot of different initiatives like chess club, like learning about technology, and like a place to check out books and be with other people. And I remember they just gave us the problem like, oh, take pictures of things that you think or places or things you experience that are changed because of COVID. So I would go to the library and then I was like, oh wait, like this place used to be like full of tons of like teenagers being able to like hang out with each other and like get to know people who don't go to the same schools with them. And then I'm looking at it now and it's like completely empty. There's all the computers have like do not use because of the restrictions, and all of the couches and stuff have just been like pushed away because no one's going to sit on them because like there's like rules against sitting down.
Yes.
So that's what I took a picture of. And for me, that image and what it says about the Voice Project and I guess like mental health in general is that when there's like physical isolation, it's also really mental as well, because that loneliness and not being able to be with people physically is really important to a lot of people because of different like home situations and like financial situations. Public places like a library that you can't access during COVID are like so important. Having that like be pushed away and like not being able to exist can be really isolating.
Thank you for sharing. What about you, Serena?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to talk about an image I took. It was the first quarter that we'd been back to campus after like a year and a half of remote learning. And it's I feel like it's referred to as a donut shop picture, but it's a picture of like just a piece of paper. It's kind of like signage in a donut shop, and it says like we'll get through this together. And the reason I like took it is because in if you live in like Southern California, especially, the majority of donut shops are owned by Cambodian Americans. And it's kind of like an industry that has just been like taken over by Cambodian Americans because um of like entrepreneur named Ted Ngoy in the 70s who immigrated here and then like started like this chain of donut shops that kind of grew because um like that's the way people are able to sustain themselves when they immigrate like you know families would pass on like their businesses and like help their like friends and family open more businesses and all of a sudden there's like an industry of like donut shops owned by Cambodian Americans. And I guess for me like that was special and like I like after taking the picture like I realized like oh like this is really special to me because I'm able to capture something that represents like my community
Yes.
a lot of people like wouldn't know about or like
I
and
didn't know
it
about
also
it, so thank you.
yeah yeah so it's just something that I think it's like when I like look around like at the world I just realized that there's so much like context and historical like knowledge that you can like take away if you just
Mhm.
like, learn more about people's like stories and like I guess the story of like the donut shop and Cambodian American like resilience and entrepreneurship also kind of for me represents more than just like like a donut shop. It
Yeah.
represents like what Cambodian Americans have been through immigrating here as like immigrant or refugees like from the Khmer Rouge. And then also makes me think about like how other people have gotten here, like how other communities, other Asian American Pacific Islander communities have gotten here. Like there's so many patterns and like shared experiences and different like stories that people have. And I I really appreciate voice because it helped me learn to like take into account those stories into a larger, bigger picture,
Yes.
like seek out like knowledge and from other people. So
I feel that in you sharing that you have become a lifelong learner, not that others haven't, but that now you're more aware. You're looking at the details of somebody's backstory, which is fascinating.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think the important or like one of the biggest takeaways I've had from voice is that like I guess the positive like effects or takeaways from voice come from like doing it.
Mhm.
It's one thing to like look at the pictures and like you know look at like oh like read about like our pictures, but like I really wish or like I hope that we can like kind of help people realize that like there's power in their like stories and their pictures because I think the biggest thing for me was like actually doing it and like being part of voice
Mhm.
would help me like learn and grow. So
Yeah. One other thing I'll ask you as well as others, it seems that the pandemic, as challenging as it has been, it's been an opportunity for growth because you probably would not have seen the world with a different lens. Would you agree?
yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I yeah, I especially being connected like with people like completely online, and having this like unprecedented like way of existing in a space with each other that's like not physical.
Yes.
I definitely think I have a new perspective.
Yes. What about you, Sidra? Did you have similar experiences?
Yeah, so the one picture I'd like to talk about is I called it hand with henna. And so it was a picture of my hand and it had like a drawing of henna on it. And so I'm Pakistani American and I'm Muslim. And so one of the things that changed drastically for us were holidays. And so for us, I took that picture the night before Eid and I was, in case you don't know, like we celebrate Eid after the holy month of Ramadan, and that's where we fast from like sunrise and sunset, you know, focus on prayer, focus on doing more charitable acts. And so it was actually a really strange time for all of us because we're so used to going to the mosque and, you know, celebrating with community and praying in congregation. And now, you know, obviously with COVID, mosques were closed. You couldn't go, you weren't supposed to, you know, interact with your family or friends or anything like that. And so that was one tradition that I remember really still enjoying, despite the fact that everything was closed during COVID. So I have two sisters and my mom, so we have 4 women in the house, and we all do henna on each other the night before Eid. And I remember feeling the whole month like, oh, it's not gonna feel like Eid, like it doesn't even feel like Ramadan, like, you know, like why are we even bothering with anything? And I remember just doing our one like activity of doing henna together, and I was like, okay, maybe it does feel like Eid. Like I'm glad that we have this one tradition that we can share together. And you know, we still got dressed up and we still took pictures in our backyard, even though we couldn't go to the mosque or we couldn't do our prayer together. But I think one of the biggest parts about this project that makes it unique is we really focused on the resilience. Like, I feel like a lot of, you know, COVID projects have focused on the hard times and, you know, how things have, you know, gone bad during the pandemic. But like you mentioned, I feel like we learned so much about the good things that came out of it, and, you know, how we focused on holding on to those traditions that we could have, and, you know, spending time with our families. And that was definitely my favorite part about the project, just being able to include the resilience of our community, you know?
Yes. A lot of times on this show and my other show on KUCI, I talk about the power of gratitude, as well as being thoughtful to yourself, taking really good care of yourself in challenging times, thoughtfulness for others. And I love how you talked about, you know, we're going to do our traditions. And I think that had a sense lifted you up in a time where you were thinking, well, why am I doing this? You know, but it is uplifting. It does bring some optimism. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Chloe, did you want to share anything else?
Oh yeah, to answer like the second part of the question about like how that relates to what other people can know about voice. I think what's really exciting about it is that the research method that it uses is accessible to anyone who has a phone with a camera. So like how Serena and Sandra were saying, like, oh, it can focus on resilience, and then also like the research and like getting to know the nuances of like the history behind it. It all starts from like taking that photo that can just be easily taken on the phone. So I think that's really cool, and that points to the idea that anyone can like look through their photo gallery and then think critically and then read articles afterwards about how that relates to the bigger cultural and historical things going on, and then be able to better understand them, but rather in the context of like overwhelming news articles or like things that are often like gotcha or like really like try to like make things very sensational. It's within the context of like one's own personal and intimate experience. So I think that's really cool.
That's great. Were you all able to present your projects in person at some point, or is it mostly just online? Professor, you're nodding your head.
Well, I just want to say I'm just so, I love our students.
I can see why.
One of the questions that we were intrigued by is like, how do you express love in a time of hate? And I think the photographs that the students are describing really convey that sense of love, right? The sense of love community, love of family, love of tradition. But also, I just want to say that these students have been such caregivers of each other. They're just hilarious on Zoom. And the chatter that's going on, the support they offer each other, it's just so beautiful. So that I got away a little bit from the presentations, but they have been doing numerous presentations. And we're also going to have a physical exhibit this fall at UCI. So hopefully people will check out both their virtual online presence, the website, the Instagram campaign, but also we're planning to have a physical exhibit this fall.
Good. I would love to come to that. That's amazing. Is there a website up now of anything that people can see? Is it on the Voice website on sites.uci.edu/voice?
Yes.
Right there. Okay, great.
This is a project that just continues to go on, because we originally thought one quarter in the fall, and then the team said, let's continue, let's make the website, let's make the Instagram campaign, let's do the curriculum project. You know, they're trying to document the reopening, the reclosing, the reopening of California. Yes. So it's like a pebble in a pond. It just keeps on rippling.
Yes. I love that you said this is going to be integrated in the curriculum, because one of the things that I'm writing about in this book I'm writing called Better Humans, what the mental health pandemic teaches us about humanity. I'm writing about the fact that here we had STEM and STEAM integrated into curriculum, but not mental health or mental health initiatives. And I believe very strongly in peer-to-peer initiatives because, you know, all of you are the future, right? And you're living in circumstances that no one would have predicted, but you're also learning these life skills and you're becoming more curious and you have this love of learning, which you will carry into your life as an adult. Yeah. One last question, Professor. So when this first started, did you have a dozen students or did you have a lot of interest? And where is that now? I would imagine it's really grown.
I think we had 24 students initially.
It's great.
There were more people who were interested, but just given our capacity and our resources, we had, I think, 24 to 25 students, and they were broken down into 6 different teams.
Okay.
And the numbers have fluctuated. So right now we have a core group of 5, but some of those students have graduated, like Serena. But, you know, I think there's still a continued passion for this project. And I think when people leave UCI, they take the project with them.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in seeing how voice continues to travel.
Amazing. Anything else anyone else would like to add before we wrap up? Sidra's thinking. No pressure.
I was wondering if you wanted to share some of the follow-up to your initial photographs. So Sidra, you have a new photograph with henna, and anything else that any of you want to share?
Yeah, so I did do a follow-up photograph to that. So I think I did the original photograph in 2020, and the newest one I did this year in 2022. And the new photo has a picture of 3 little girls all covered their hands in henna. And to me, that was like a representation of passing down traditions. So my mom has 2 friends that have 2 younger daughters, or one of them has 2 daughters that are both under the age of 5, and another one that I think is like 6, that's the daughter of a different friend. And they were saying how they'd never had their henna done, and they probably don't even understand what Eid is because they're so young and they only saw the holidays through the pandemic, and this is the first year that they're getting to go to the mosque. And so I was like, yeah, you can bring them over to our house, I'll do their henna for them. And so I did all of their henna, and then they like took a picture all together. And to me, that just was kind of full circle. I remember thinking like, oh my God, I remember I took a picture of my one hand, you know, sitting at home alone doing this. And, you know, now I have like a bunch of little girls that I can pass on the tradition to. And so that was definitely one of my favorite photo and then follow-up photo that we did for the project.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. What about you, Serena?
Since I entered the project later, I guess my photos don't really have a direct follow-up, but I did want to like emphasize, I guess, like encouraging other people to like reflect on their own photos. Because like at least for me, joining the Voice Project like later and like co-constructing the curriculum, like while also learning what Photovoice is, because like I was teaching people like what Photovoice was while also learning what Photovoice was at the same time. I guess it just gave me a new perspective on like pictures and photos and like how much they can carry for people. Like one thing I really liked that we did was we actually were able to like share voice at the Amplify Women Conference at UCI. And an activity we did was to just like go through like an audience member's phone to find like a picture that they wanted to analyze. And someone shared like a picture of their like cat, and like the way their cat like has helped them move through the pandemic and shaped like their relationship with other people, like how the cat like pops up on Zoom during like work hours, and like their coworkers will see them. So I just really like want to emphasize like the practice of like practicing Photovoice and like how meaningful it is for people. I would say almost like more meaningful than just like seeing and like hearing about Photovoice. So I really hope like even like if you when we log off, like if you look at any photos on your phone and like take time to like reflect on what they mean to you and like the context behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you. And Chloe, we'll wrap up with you.
Yeah, going off what Serena was saying, I think what's really cool about the Voice Project and the Photovoice method is that it like asks us to like go back to moments in our past that we might not have thought about otherwise. Because of this project, I've realized that like I've taken a lot of photos during the height of the pandemic in 2020. And if I wasn't part of this project, I don't think I would have those photos of like my family or like a plate of food I was eating or like the things I was experiencing. So I feel like it's really cool to treasure those now. And then what that has taught for me and from this project is that capturing moments doesn't always have to be like the really big ones or like things that just like seem literally meaningful. It can be anything, and then it's the meaning and like analyzing the tie to it that can make anything really meaningful.
Fantastic. I just want to give the website one more time for people watching this. It's sites.uci.edu/voice. And I put all of your information as well as details on Voice on the show blog, which is otbseries.com. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.